Howdy, howdy, everybody. I'm RJ Smith, and this thing of ours is called Crazy News Reacts. I find crazy, violent, insane, stupid, strange, and weird news and bring it to you every day in the form of shorts, videos, and clips. Welcome aboard. If this is your first time here, please hit the like button, subscribe, and make a comment and share. All of those things help us in the algorithm so that we can keep bringing you this free content. So without further ado, let's just get right to it. This story is about Joy Reid, but it's not just another story like you've seen on YouTube. I'm going to break down her employment history and show you the early signs that should have told everybody that this woman was a vitriolic racist. Let's begin.
I genuinely do not believe I wrote those hateful things because they are completely alien to me. But I can definitely understand, based on things I have tweeted and have written in the past, why some people don't believe me.
But I appreciate my haters as well, because hating is it's a type of fandom.
What's really scary to me is that she also teaches for Syracuse University, a class that she has in Manhattan, which, of course, what? Explores race. Let's go back to 2017 and again in 2018, where she reposted posts that describe, quote, the trope of gay sex to mock politicians and journalists that lean to the right. Following national condemnation, she apologized, calling the posts insensitive, tone deaf, and numb. Then, in case you've been living under a rock over the last 10 days, MSNBC has finally fired Joy Reid and canceled her show, The Readout, after just 5 years. It was a race-baiting show. She had no business being on television. She began her journalism career in 1997 at one of my favorite stations here in Florida, WSVN Channel 7, in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, or the South Florida market. But just a few years later, she quit to work for an activist group to oppose the Iraq War, the Afghanistan War, and most importantly, race bait President George W. Bush. However, after failing miserably at WSVN, in 2006 through 2007, she took a job at WTPS Radio as a morning talk show jockey. But in 2008, she left to work for Barack Obama's presidential campaign. After that, she took a job at The Griot, a now defunct website, and Allen Media Group, a television network aimed at African Americans. From 2011 to 2014, just 3 years, she also worked as a political columnist at the Miami Herald, but she left that job too. And from February 2014 to 2015, just 1 year, she hosted her own MSNBC afternoon cable show. That was called The Reid Report, but ironically, it was canceled after just 1 year.
My show had value, and that, I'm sorry, that what I was doing had value.
And let's face it, if Joy Reid thinks her show has value, now she has the freedom, like so many other creators in this creator economy that we're now in, to go out and prove that for herself. And so she's going to have opportunities. And I think MSNBC is just responding to the reality that there are more Americans today approving of President Trump and what he's doing. And there's probably not the appetite on that network for this left-wing Trump bashing 24/7.
Further blog posts from 2005 through 2007 were brought to the public's attention. This, according to the Washington Post, included Reid's remarks encouraging her fans to watch the truther conspiracy theory film called Loose Change, and saying of Israel, quote, God is not a real estate broker. He can't just give you land back 1,000 years later when you come back and claim it's yours. She claimed that Jewish people spend $500,000 on their bar and bat mitzvahs, and described CNN's Jewish anchor Wolf Blitzer as a former flake for their cause, close quote, a racist and bigot. No other way to explain this type of language. And shame on anyone who puts this out over their television or radio airwaves. Because like I said, if the roles were reversed and it was a Caucasian person saying the same thing about black people, I can imagine 24-hour news coverage nonstop about it. The Zionist organization then called on MSNBC to fire Joy Reid for promoting, quote, sinister anti-Semitic canards, close quote. Another controversial post in 2007 and contained a Photoshop image of Senator John McCain's face superimposed on the body Sung Hee Choi, who perpetrated the Virginia Tech shooting. Remember that? She again formally apologized for all of her past writings, saying, quote, "I'm a better person today than I was over a decade ago. There are things I deeply regret and am embarrassed by things I would have said differently and issues where my position has changed. Today, I am sincerely apologizing again," close quote. But it wasn't over. All the signs were there for executives at NBC Universal to fire her for her racism and bigotry. However, those supervisors at MSNBC expressed its continued support, saying in a statement that some of the blog posts were, quote, "obviously hateful and hurtful," close quote, but that they were not reflective of the colleague and friend we have known at MSNBC for the past 7 years, close quote, and that, quote, "Joy has apologized publicly and privately and said she has grown and evolved in the many years since, and we know this to be true." Really?
Millions of Germans to celebrate Hitler and turn a blind eye to his brutality. If that sounds vaguely familiar, that's because it is. Similarities to what happened in Germany and what's happening now in America are just undeniable. History may not repeat verbatim, but it sure does rhyme. On this side of the TV screen have said all we can. We've laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism. They can drive out the brown people and the black and Asian people, or just sink them into the same apartheid they've created in Texas.
Muslims, Jews, white people, you name it, she was against them. If you're a Republican, she went after you. This is just not the kind of person you want to have on television. Imagine if it was reversed. It was a white woman there talking about black people and Puerto Ricans and Muslims. Imagine what would have happened. In 2016, she was hosting Joy AM, a weekend morning talk show, also on MSNBC, and was also a frequent substitute for other more popular MSNBC hosts like Chris Hayes and, of course, the wonderful lady Rachel Maddow. As of 2018, the weekend show got her about 1 million viewers a week. Not that great, but it was good enough in 2020 for MSNBC to offer her her own daily show.
They want white supremacy by ventriloquist effect.
Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not. That is what it appears happened in that state. They're increasingly, from the Tea Party on, they're voting on race. They're voting on this idea of an invasion of brown people over the border. The idea that they can't get whatever job they want. A black person got it, therefore drive all the blacks out of the colleges.
She was able to take over this show because Chris Matthews, the host of Hardball, had just recently retired. She became cable's first black anchor in primetime. And for the next 5 years, she would spout racially charged rhetoric over MSNBC airwaves.
But that message obviously was not enough to get enough white women to vote for Vice President Harris, a fellow woman. This will be the second opportunity that white women in this country have to change the way that they interact with the patriarchy. Well, here's an alternative thought. Make your own dinner, MAGA. Make your own sandwiches. Wipe your own tears. Troll amongst yourselves with Elon and leave us alone.
Tonight will be Joy Reid's final show on MSNBC. Single tear, white woman tears happening right here, Joy.
I'm sorry that what I was doing.
She was officially fired over the weekend because she's a racist, horrible news anchor with no ratings. And that's really been the truth for a long time. MSNBC's under new management, and I guess they decided to come to grips with reality.
In America, there's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears. Really white tears in general.
I'm sorry that what I was doing.
Because that's what Karens are, right? They Karen out, and then as soon as they get caught, it's like Green Waterworks. White men can get away with that too. And it has the same effect. Even as the right tries to politicize the idea that masculinity is being robbed from American men by multiculturalism and wokeism, they still want to be able to have their tears.
I'm sorry that what I was doing.
Second batch of rhetoric came out where she described kissing between men as disgusting to straight people, accused gay men of being attracted to very young, post-puberty types and declared opposition to same-sex marriage. In one post, we now know that she wrote, "Does that make me homophobic? Probably, close quote. She claims she did not remember making those statements, of course, and blamed the company for being hacked and that they somehow changed her word. Give me a freaking break. However, the Wayback Machine investigated and came out saying that none of her posts had been hacked. The second batch of posts prompted LGBT advocates like PFLAG to rescind its plan to give Reed an award, as the Daily Beast suspended all future columns from her after they came to realize she was not hacked and these were her real views.
None of that matters when you believe that God has given you this country, that it is yours, and that everyone who is not a white conservative Christian is a fraudulent American.
She accused President Donald Trump of, quote, radicalizing people, close quote. The case of leaders, quote, let's say in the Muslim world, talk a lot about violent talk and encourage their supporters to be willing to commit violence, including on their own bodies, in order to win against whomever they decide is the enemy, close quote. The Southern Poverty Law Center and United States House Representative Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib criticized Reed's remarks as Islamophobic and called for another apology. Over the years, it was apparent to anyone with ears that Reed was a shameless racist, guys, calling out Muslims, Jews, white people, and Republicans with her vitriolic language.
Necropolitics, which is essentially the politics of who gets to live and who gets to die. And these states, what they have in common is that they have structures which say that black and brown lives matter less. And so all that matters is the black and brown people get their behinds into the factory and make me my steaks, make me my stuff, get there and do my nails, work, get back to work now and do the things that I, the comfortable, affluent person, need.
Many of us have seen the dangers when powerful white people decide they want something, they annex it. And they've never had a problem replacing the people who stand in their way.
We see American white people are going crazy. They're resorting to violence.
This is literally what conservative white folks do when they don't get their way. They turn violent.
White people deputizing themselves in some position of authority to have jurisdiction over their life when they need to mind their blanking business.
I don't think it's our responsibility to be tasked with destroying and dismantling the racial oppression that's against us. That's just saying we're more at fault than the white people who constructed this system and the white people who continue to practice institutional racism.
A majority of white people do not support policies that would unpack and unroll and reform this system of justice. This is what they want. Matt Gaetz is giving the white folks what they want.
White replacement can strangle culture. So yes, we should all be concerned about white replacement. It is, after all, a very threat to our survival here.
Full-on crisis in our democracy, as federal workers are literally locked out of their offices while operatives working for a private citizen essentially take over our government. Their tactics include turning off our federal websites, deleting government-funded research that you, the taxpayer, paid for to impose speech codes, bullying news organizations by demanding interview transcripts, implementing an FBI purge, locking federal workers out of their computers, and even turning them away at their offices while giving themselves, without congressional or any other authorization, full access.
My show had value, and that that what I was doing had value.
Today, she is jobless after her ratings plummeted because of the non-stop race baiting. That's all I have for you today, folks. Be very careful who you watch on television and keep your ears open so that you know the facts the next time something like this happens. Please hit the like, the subscribe, share, and turn on all notifications, and I will see you right back here tomorrow.